Superman is too woke now, come the cries of the far right and Snyder Bros alike. This new movie with its themes of immigration and its parallels to current Middle Eastern conflict. We have to go back to the way it used to be, back in the good old days. No, not him. No, keep going. No, definitely not. No, I'll come back to you. No, close. There we go. June 1938. Action Comics number 1. The world is introduced to Superman. Not just any Superman. The Golden Age Superman. A Superman so woke, he makes David Cornsweet look like Ben Shapiro. And before you start commenting, oh, you're using the word woke wrong. That's not what woke means. The new Superman is way more woke than that old Superman. Well, I only use the word woke for engagement bait, so please do comment that. It'll help more people see my video. Thank you. The original version of Superman is a little different than the Superman we know today. Some of these differences are obvious just from reading page 1 of Action Comics number 1. First couple panels show his origin. As a distant planet was destroyed by old age, a scientist placed his infant son within a hastily devised spaceship, launching it towards Earth. Here the origin is similar, but no Krypton lore, no Jor-El, no Zod. It then says that Superman was turned over to an orphanage and he was raised there, so no Ma and Pa Kent. Then we learn what his powers are. He can leap 1/8 of a mile, hurdle a 20-story building, raise tremendous weights, run faster than an express train, and nothing less than a bursting shell could penetrate his skin. So, pretty similar, but he can't fly. We also get an explanation for his powers, which is basically, bugs can do it. However, the biggest difference between this Superman and Superman now, or any comic superheroes now, is that originally there were no supervillains. So what did Superman do? Well, let's jump right into the action and find out. The story starts mid-action as Superman heads to the governor's estate. He leaves a lady tied up by a tree, which we'll find out why later. What do you mean by knocking this hour of the night? I must see the governor. It's a matter of life and death. See him in the morning. I'll see him now. This is illegal entry. I'll have you arrested. Answer my question. Are you going to take me to the governor? No, I won't. Then I'll take you to him. Help. Yes, this is the governor's sleeping room. Sorry, I keep changing his voice. Yeah, this is the governor's sleeping room. Don't think you're going to get away with this outrage. It's locked. Yes, and made of steel. Try and knock this door down. That's the sound of steel being torn from its hinges. What's the meaning of this? Evelyn Curry is to be electrocuted in 15 minutes for murder. I have proof here of her innocence. A signed confession. Don't you realize I have proof she's innocent and you alone can save her? Let me see those papers. Hurry, connect me with the penitentiary. Stop, the government has pardoned her. Here's a note you left, sir. You'll find the real murderess, bound and delivered on the lawn of your estate. That's the woman that he had tied up. So, Superman's first adventure, he saved someone from being electrocuted by just presenting evidence that they were innocent. A little different than maybe some of the Superman stories we're used to. But that's not his only adventure in this issue. Mild mannered reporter Clark Kent finds out there's a wife beating going on. Hold it. What do you want? Don't get tough. Tough is putting mildly the treatment you're gonna get. You're not fighting a woman now. Okay, so he beats up a wife beater. Lois Lane is also in this issue, and she hates Clark, but she loves Superman. He also puts on very much a performance of Clark as a bumbling idiot who's like a weakling, kind of similar to Christopher Reeves. He takes her out on a date, and some guy wants to dance with her, and he's like, well, I guess. She's like, stand up for me, and Clark doesn't do anything, and so she's like, I hate you, Clark. That's the end of that, I guess, for this issue. But now Superman's got another problem to solve. There's a war going on in South America. Clark goes to D.C. to listen to Congress talk about it, and he overhears kind of a suspicious conversation. I've told you to avoid me in public. What would people think if they knew I had anything to do with you? Quit sputtering. I had to see you. Tell me, do you think you succeed in pushing the bill through? There's no doubt about it. The bill will be passed before its full implications are realized. Before any remedial steps can be taken, our country will be embroiled with Europe. So, Superman overhears the senator warmongering. So he grabs this guy that he was talking to, and he's like, who's behind this warmongering operation? He says, I'll never tell. So Superman's like, yeah, we'll see about that. He grabs him and they start jumping around DC. Wonder if we could jump all the way to that building. No, don't! Missed. Doggone it. And with that, issue number 1 ends on a cliffhanger. Already we can see that this original Superman is very different. He's not fighting supervillains, he's fighting abusers, he's fighting corrupt politicians. He's just fighting normal injustice that exists in the real world. And don't worry about that cliffhanger. We're going to jump right into issue number 2 to see how this story ends. Finally, he gets the guy to talk. Finds out that the guy behind all this warmongering is Emil Norvell. So Superman uses some violent persuasion to get Norvell to board a boat to San Monte, where this war is taking place. While on the boat, Norvell tries to get some of his goons to kill Superman, but then when they fail, he refuses to pay them, and then they try to kill him, and Superman comes to save him from his henchmen. You saved me, but why? Because the fate you escaped is pleasant indeed compared to the one I have in store for you. What are you gonna do to me? Nothing. If you join the San Monte army. So he decides he'll join the army, but he'll leave at the first opportunity. However, his plan does not go through, because when he gets there, he finds Superman also enlisted. So together they march out to war, and Norvell learns that war is hell. And here we see the beginning of a common trope in these early Superman comics. Superman's greatest power, teaching empathy to the elite. At some point, Lois is going to be gunned down by a firing squad, and Superman saves him with this fire line. You can't do that. It's impossible. Thanks for letting me know. Fire. Anyways, Norvell decides that he's going to stop warmongering. With that problem solved, there's one more problem. The war's still going on. So Superman grabs the leader of both sides of the army, and he sits him down and says, all right, you two fight it out. And they're like, well, I don't got any beef with him. Superman's like, why are you fighting? They're like, well, I don't know. And then he says, gentlemen, it's obvious you've been fighting only to promote the sale of munitions. Why not shake hands and make up? And so Superman's ended the war. If you've seen the new Superman, you might remember the part where Superman says that he took the leader of the nation that was invading the other country, and he held them up against a cactus, and he's like, if you do this again, you'll have to answer to me. And as you can see from these comics, that's the kind of the closest that he gets to this Golden Age Superman. He was doing that sort of stuff all the time. I'm not going to go through every single issue, but there are a few that I want to talk about. In Action Comics number 3, Superman faces his new villain, OSHA violations. He finds out that there's been a collapse in a mine due to some safety regulations not being followed. He asks this injured guy if it could have been prevented, and he says, yeah, very much could have. But, the boss doesn't really care about our safety. So Superman's plan is to disguise himself as a miner, ER, and crash the owner's party. And the owner decides, let's see how the other half lives. Let's go down into the mine. How Superman knew that he was going to say that, I don't know. But they go down into the mine. And while down there, Superman starts breaking some of the support beams, and so the mine collapses in on them, and they start to panic, but the owner says, oh, don't worry, we've got safety devices, we're fine. But he discovers that the safety devices were never checked, and they're screwed. Luckily they got Superman down there with them to get him out of there, and he saves the day. And the boss decides that he's gonna not kill his employees from now on. Issue number 4 is kind of interesting. Superman overhears a college football coach taking bribes to throw a game, and so he disguises himself as one of the players and wins the game. It's kind of an interesting it's not really that big of a threat. He just kind of wants to screw this guy out of his money, I guess. In issue number 6, Superman finds out that an ad company has been using his likeness for their ads, thinking that Superman's just a myth. They even make a song about him, which It goes on for a full page. But Clark goes and talks to the company owner, and he says, "Oh yeah, we're working with Superman." And Clark's like, "Oh really? I want to meet this Superman." So he sets up a meeting with their fake Superman. However, Lois wants to get the scoop on him, and so she roofies him. Luckily, he's Superman, so the roofies don't work. But like, come on, Lois. What were you thinking? If that was anyone else, you totally could have gone to jail, I think. I don't know what laws were like in the 30s, but come on. However, when Lois gets there, she immediately figures out that this Superman is a fraud, and so the guys try to kill her. Superman shows up to save the day, and just by a menacing aura, convinces them to admit guilt in court. This issue is also the first appearance of Jimmy Olsen. He's credited as Office Boy. Also, sometimes they add in these things of like how to get Superman's power. So this issue we got acquiring super strength muscle training. Clench your fist as tightly as possible, exerting every ounce of energy, while in this tense state, sharply jerk them in various directions. This will eventually impart you to a crushing hand grip. Any Jim Bros in the comments, let me know if that will work. In issue number 8, Superman helps reform some boys who are involved in the crime ring, and he decides, your bad behavior is probably just a result of your bad living conditions. What can I do about that? And he comes up with a plan to destroy the slums so that the government has to come in and build nicer houses, which I feel like if that actually happened, either the houses they built would be crap, or if they built nice houses, they wouldn't let poor people live in them. It worked in the comic, but I'm skeptical that would work in real life. We also have this supervision test. First glance at a distant object, then glance at a close object. Repeat procedure. Do you think kids actually did this in the 30s? Reading these comics and like, oh yeah, I'm going to be like Superman. And just for hours a day, they're... Any 90-year-olds in the comments, let me know. Issue number 11 is my favorite. This one's so funny. Okay, so Superman, he gets word that these stockbrokers are selling worthless stock, and some guy committed suicide because his stock was worthless. So he disguises himself under the name of Homer Ramsey, and he goes around and he buys up all the stock. All this worthless stock, he goes and buys it. Then he goes to the oil rig to find out why the stock is so worthless. And he discovers it wasn't even operating. And so he plugs it in, and he starts pumping out that liquid gold. There's oil spewing everywhere. One of the workers calls up the owners. He's like, hey, there's oil in these here hills. And the owners are like, okay, we gotta buy back all that stock before this goes public. And so they go around trying to buy the stock, and they find out that one guy had bought all the stock from all these people. And so they meet up with this Homer Ramsey, and he's like, I'm not selling. So they try to kill him. But that doesn't work because he's Superman. Eventually he jumps into one of their cars while they're driving, and he's like, I'll sell the stock to you for $1 million. And he's like, ooh, $1 million. I don't know about that. Well, we are going to make a lot of money from all this oil, so guess in the long run, it'll be worth it. All right, we'll buy it. After they purchase the stock, Superman comes back dressed as Superman. He takes both of them, flies them to the oil rig, and destroys it as they watch. And now their stock is worthless again. And Superman also made a quick buck. So, good for him, I guess. Oh, number 12 is a fun one too. In this one, Superman tackles reckless driving. He reads a report that driving-related deaths are on the rise, and he's like, I'm going to put a stop to this. I'm going to fight a personal war on bad driving. So the first thing he does is he breaks into the radio station, just right through the wall like the Kool-Aid Man, and he announces this message. Attention citizens of this city, a warning from Superman. Pay close heed. The auto accident death rate of this community is one that should shame us all. It's constantly rising and due entirely to reckless driving and inefficiency. More people have been killed needlessly by autos than died during the World War. From this moment on, I declare war on reckless drivers. Henceforth, homicidal drivers answer to me. Now the war has begun. First thing he does is he goes to where the city is holding all the cars for traffic violators, and he destroys all of those cars. Then he goes to a used car salesman who's selling unsafe cars, and he destroys all those. Next he sees a drunk driver and decides to take him for a wild ride until he agrees to stop drinking and driving. Another driver almost hits him while he's on the road, and so he jumps into their car and he says, "You left my crushed body back there, twisted and broken. I'll hunt you as long as you drive recklessly. Do you hear? I'll hunt you." And then he leaves. Then he goes to a car factory that has the highest rate of automobile accidents from their cars, and he destroys all of their machinery. Meanwhile, back at the radio station, just as they finished repairing the wall, Superman breaks in again and delivers another warning. "Just thought I'd drop in, folks, and remind you that I'm dead earnest." He sees a cop accepting a bribe for a speeding ticket, and he just stands there menacingly until the cop decides not to take the bribe. He finds a dangerous, curvy road, and he just straightens it out himself. He just moves the road. The mayor, seeing all this destruction Superman's doing, he's like, "I don't know what to do about this guy." And he decides that the best thing to do is speeding. Superman is not a fan of this, so he jumps in the car with him and he goes even faster. "Stop! Do you want to kill us?" "Why not? You don't worry much about killing the others." "Others? What do you mean?" "By not seeing to it that the speed laws were strictly enforced, you doomed many to death." So he takes him to the morgue to show him all the victims of these driving accidents, and he decides he's going to take this whole reckless driving thing a little more seriously. Clark gets to work and finds out the mayor is cracking down on reckless driving. And as a final little punchline to the story, Clark gets a parking ticket. And in issue number 13, we're introduced to Superman's first supervillain, the Ultra Humanite. He's like a bald super genius in a wheelchair. It's like Lex Luthor mixed with Professor X. This was very much a turning point for Superman. Those old stories still appeared in the comics, but the writers soon discovered that supervillain stories were more popular, and so they slowly replaced those other types of stories. And because of that, Superman comics changed quite a lot. But supervillains weren't the only culprit. The other main catalyst for change in Superman comics was the Comics Code Authority. Back in the 50s, parents were concerned that comics were a bad influence on their kids. The age-old tradition of my kids are having fun, I must put a stop to it. Before comics, it was jazz. More recently, video games. In the 50s, it was comic books. So in 1954, the Comics Code Authority was introduced, and all comics had to be vetted through them, and they were kind of strict. This ushered in the Silver Age of comics, which were notably very goofy. A good example of how the Silver Age affected comics is Batman. Batman first appeared in Detective Comics 27, just a year after Superman, and he had kind of similar stories. There's a reason he was called the world's greatest detective. He would do detective work, and he'd fight bad guys. He even had a gun, and he used it to shoot people if he needed. But the Comics Code Authority turned that Batman into this Batman. A similar thing happened with Superman. And besides being really goofy, a notable thing about Silver Age comics is their crazy clickbait covers. It'd be something like Superman drop-kicking a baby into the sun. And that's not a real example. I'll show some real ones in a minute. But then you'd read the comic, and either that doesn't happen at all, or it's like someone put a bomb in a doll, and that's what he was drop-kicking. It's not at all what you thought it was going to be from the cover. Here's some real examples. This one teases Superman's new power, where he shoots rainbows from his fingers. Wonder what that could be. Here we see that Superman was actually Perry White the whole time. This one, Superman's not letting anybody drink any water. And in this one, Superman's not letting anyone drink any water. I don't know what it is about Superman and not letting people drink water. Also, this one says, Jimmy Olsen and Aquaman's survival of the fittest. What a strange matchup for a survival contest. This one, Superman says, Jimmy, this gift you got me for Father's Day makes me sorry I ever adopted you as my son. I'll have to destroy it to teach you a lesson. But Superman, Dad, what did I do wrong? Implying that this robe is so bad that he doesn't want Jimmy as his adopted son anymore. Okay, this one's my favorite. I turned Batman and Flash into kids. and killed them. You're next, Superman. Not the brag you think it is, Lex. Oh man, that's so funny. Okay, there's a couple here. I don't know what this storyline is, but I guess Lois was put in a sphere so that she could be protected from the world. And then she goes back in time to stop Clark and Lana Lang from falling in love. Lois was on her Eobard Thawne arc, apparently. This one, Superman's accusing Batman of being a witch. This one, Batman is a genie. We've got Jimmy trying to kill Superman, Superman trying to kill Jimmy, Lois making Superman shoot an innocent guy. I don't need to talk about that one. Next one, the gorillas. Apparently, people in the 60s loved gorillas, which I get it. I do too. But some comic book writer discovered that if you put a gorilla on the cover, it's gonna sell. Here's a few different examples of gorilla covers. There was a lot of these. Eventually, comics started to get more serious again as the decades went on, and now they've progressed to where they are today. But I feel like we need to go back to these golden age stories. In a way, we kind of are. If you look at Matt Reeves' Batman, the Riddler in that movie, it's not like a goofy Jim Carrey character. His character is a lot more real. And he's based on a real serial killer, the Zodiac Killer. But like, if he had access to 4chan and could radicalize young men online, it's a lot more akin to a threat that we would actually face. In the new Superman, we still got Lex as the villain, but we also have this war going on that's so reminiscent of current world affairs that people got upset about it. Ultimately, I think Superman represents hope. When he was first introduced, he was fighting these battles for the little guys, battles that they couldn't fight themselves. Any injustice he saw, he fought it. We still face these same evils. We still have businessmen who treat their workers poorly. We have corrupt politicians. We have, insider trading and sports gambling and reckless driving. All of these things still exist. But we don't have Superman. In Superman 4, Quest for Peace, it's set up against the backdrop of the Cold War. It came out in the 80s. And what Superman does is he takes all of the nuclear warheads in the world, throws them up into space. And then at the end of the movie, he's basically like, I can't do this anymore. You guys got to figure this out on your own. I can't solve every problem for you. And I feel like that was kind of a message to the audience of the day that we don't have Superman to get rid of our nuclear warheads. We got to figure this out on our own. And so even though we got all these problems, we got to figure it out. Ultimately, my hope is that in 100 years, when future generations are reading back on the original Action Comics, seeing these adventures of the old Superman, they won't be as relatable to them as they are to us. Maybe that's the real punk rock.